The innate ability to use the cosmic energy field known as the Force has the potential to drastically alter the lives of Force-sensitive individuals. During the era of the Republic, these children were taken from their homes and inducted into the illustrious Jedi Order, where they were raised to become warriors of peace and hope across the galaxy. During the era of the Empire, however, we come to find out that Force-sensitive children are again taken from their homes, only it's not as clearly established where these children go, or what they are ultimately used by the Empire for. So what does the Empire do with Force-sensitive children? Where do they go? And what does Palpatine have in store for them once they get there? Well, stick with us, students of the Force, and let's discuss Palpatine's sinister plan for Force-sensitive children that began all the way back during the age of the Clone War. Spoilers ahead for Kenobi Episode 3, and full spoilers ahead for Episode 4. An important distinction here to make is that we are not talking about the tombs shown in the latest episode of Kenobi, as these bodies were former members of the previous Jedi Order. Instead, we are talking about the children of the galaxy that are found to be Force-sensitive during the reign of the Empire, and are the children that Quinlan Vos and Tala have spent the last decade rescuing. These children have never been affiliated with the Jedi Order in any way. They are just children of the galaxy that are Force-sensitive. But for a breakdown on what these tombs were in the latest episode of Kenobi, be sure to check out our video on that as well. We do, however, have a canon answer for what Palpatine and the Empire does with these Force-sensitive children. And may I say, these Force-sensitive children may suffer a fate worse than any Jedi. The answer in canon comes from a project simply known as the Star Wars Book, which compiled contributions from the likes of Pablo Hidalgo, Cole Horton, and Dan Zare, each of whom are influential Star Wars creators in their own right. The plan proposed in this book is that the children were being utilized for an Imperial program known as Project Harvester. We first learn of Project Harvester and the plan that Palpatine has to steal Force-sensitive children during the very early days of the Clone Wars conflict. In the Clone Wars series, in fact, when Anakin Skywalker and his team are tasked with rescuing Force-sensitives that have been taken by a group of bounty hunters. While Palpatine's plan ultimately failed in the episode, and at this point in time, his grip on the galaxy after the war ended allowed him to carry out the remainder of this operation unopposed. At first, it was largely believed that these children would become Inquisitors, or agents of the Sith. But in truth, something far more sinister was at play here. During Project Harvester, the children that Palpatine took were sent to the planet known as Arcanus, where they would be raised under the tutelage of Palpatine's various Imperial agents. The purpose of Project Harvester was designed to turn these Force-sensitive children into spies of sorts for Palpatine. However, they would be far more nefarious in nature. They would be taught how to hone their Force abilities and use them to see various events and individuals from across the galaxy. Perhaps the darkest part of this plan, however, was how these children differed from the likes of the Inquisitors or Sith Assassins from Legends. Inquisitors, Sith Apprentices, and Sith Assassins are all seduced by the inherent power within the dark side that they can feel, and they choose to seek this power out of their own accord. Many of these Sith agents were former Jedi who already had an affinity with the Force and an understanding of how to use it. But these children, taken during the age of the Empire, were treated much differently and in a way that disqualified them from ever becoming Sith agents. The inherent flaw in training children to use the Force from such a young age is that Palpatine ran the risk of children growing powerful enough to overthrow him or usurp his rule, but yet he still needed spies. Therefore, he developed a different indoctrination tactic that helped mitigate this risk. Instead of seducing these children with the dark side, making them curious and wish to embrace the darkness within the Force, he instead broke their spirits through years of immense physical, psychological, and mental torment. While the Inquisitors and Sith agents had a choice to pursue the dark side, these children very much did not. From here, Palpatine would have a method of peering across the expanse of his entire empire, able to see through the eyes of these children, able to see the darkest corners that he himself would never have thought to search. This would shine a light on some of the most credible threats to his reign, and allowed him to act on these visions before his supremacy could ever be challenged or toppled. He believed that if he could see into the furthest reaches of the galaxy, then he would be able to find anyone who sought to oppose him, using these imprisoned and enslaved children as a window of sorts to peer through their plans, and through their very eyes. This mentally crippled them and destroyed their will to fight back. taking away from them their very presence and personality. And seeing as many of them were incredibly young, they were cursed with living out the entirety of their lives within Palpatine's imperial grasp. They had no personality because they never had time to develop one, nor did they have any semblance of humanity because their connections with their loved ones were severed at such a young age, meaning that they never grew up or developed socially, emotionally, or even in some cases physically. While the Jedi were likewise taken from a very young age, they still had social interactions within the Jedi Temple and even the innocence of the galaxy. They made friends with one another, explored the galaxy, and at least had some semblance of socialization, despite the fact that the Jedi Order itself was not a morally pure order as they claimed to be. These children, however, taken, stolen by Palpatine, did not have any hint of this, and were presumably little more than cogs in a machine that worked on Palpatine's latest project. Even their training was believed to be incredibly specialized and severely limited, as the only use of the Force that they ever learned was how to spy on the galaxy around them. None of them grew to have any sort of power within the Force, simply because they were never taught how to use any other Force abilities, nor were they ever taught how to channel it on their own benefit or for even combat purposes. It has even been theorized that they were barely even taught what the Force was, or what it is capable of, and they might have been simply taught that they had one specific ability and that it was their duty to perform it in the service of their emperor. If they learned the fullest extent of what they were capable of, then they might have been incentivized to break free or attempt to fight back, and Palpatine, of course, could not allow this. Therefore, he had to break them. With this operation underway, however, Palpatine was able to seek out many of his greatest threats to the Empire and dispatch agents to quell the uprisings from across the galaxy. This is in fact one of the many methods that Palpatine used to stay on top of any information being passed across the galaxy. Even operations that were conducted with the utmost secrecy and discretion were no match for the power of the Force, and several rebel schemes would have been sabotaged by this project. This left the deadliest agents of the Sith to continue their training, becoming inquisitors or apprentices in some other way, and allowing Palpatine to isolate these children in some of the coldest, harshest environments that the Empire had to offer. And it is our opinion here at the channel that these children suffered a much worse fate than the Jedi that were hunted down during Order 66, as these children are entirely stripped of who they are, their loved ones, their very being, and are trained for one specific task. Even who they are is taken from them. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of Project Harvester? And did you know the purpose of Force-sensitive children and why they were taken in droves by the Empire? It should also be noted that it is known that Darth Vader, as well as the Inquisitors, have been known to personally take these Force-sensitive children and deliver them to Palpatine for his nefarious plan. If you are interested in why the tombs that we see in Obi-Wan Kenobi are also so dangerous, we also made a video detailing that. As always, my friends, stay tuned on the channel for everything Obi-Wan and Star Wars related, and may the Force be with you.